No, I do not care at all about the Super Bowl. It's not that I don't want to not care. It's that dynasties don't do it for me. The idea that one guy can be that good and no one can stop him. I don't know what that is. I don't understand how that's even remotely possible. But okay, so there's going to be very little Super Bowl talk, but there is going to be a fair amount of what in the world did Trump say about Nikki Haley talking? What in the world did Trump say about Russia and NATO? And how could everybody get everything so wrong? And how can Trump allow himself to get in the way of the story, which is Joe Biden is not a competent and capable man? Why in the world would you get involved? Why get in the way? It's nonsense. Guys, make sure you subscribe at Rumble, YouTube, follow along on X at Tony Katz. Let's get to it, shall we? The radio show's coming in right now. When someone is destroying themselves, don't get in the way. I mean, if you like them, get in the way. But if you don't like them, if you're not a fan, let's argue that they are your political opponent. Don't get in the way. Don't change the story. Just let them destroy themselves. That's all I ask. I ask that we be a group of competent, cogent people. And when someone is ruining themselves, we let them do exactly that. What we should not do is this.
The greatest president in my lifetime, she said, I will never run against him. Then she comes over to see me at Mar-a-Lago. Sir, I will never run against you. She brought her husband. Where's her husband? Oh, he's away. He's away. What happened to her husband? What happened to her husband? Where is he? He's gone. He knew. He knew. But no, think of this. Think of this. I will never run against you, sir, but it's all over tape. We've got like 19 versions. The great Dan Scavino, he made 19 versions of it. I will never run against him. Will you run against him? I will never. A little while later, I'd like to announce my candidacy. We don't need people like this. And I'll tell you what, she did a job. She was fine. She was okay. But I didn't put her there because I wanted her there at the United Nations. That was up to me. I wanted to take your lieutenant governor, who's right here, and make him governor. That's what I wanted.
So this was all just a play. You just dealt with Nikki Haley so you could get a new governor. Stop it. You liked her and you know you did. You see, first you weren't friends and then you said we're friends and you liked her and it's fine. And she is running because it's politics and that's the way it goes. But where's her husband? What are you doing? Why are you getting in the way? There is one news story out there and it is that Joe Biden is incompetent, is incapable. He is decrepit. He is in serious mental decline. And the 25th Amendment has got to get started. And what are you doing, Mr. President? What are you doing, Donald Trump? Get out of the way. I can't believe I have to be the guy who brings this up. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. 833-468-8669, 833 got Tony. That's where you get to be a part of the show. And of course, check out the live stream, Rumble or YouTube, wherever you get yourself a good live stream. Drives me crazy. I have said this about Trump 19 million times. The unenforced error, the self-inflicted leg shot. It's mixed martial arts. It's UFC. Very rarely does one leg kick take out a fighter. That's super rare. Like sometimes the kick will be so intense that a fighter will break their own leg. It's leg kicks freak me out. They always have. But it's rarely just one. It's the accumulation of leg kicks that do you in. The accumulation of leg kicks. You keep getting that hit. You keep getting that hit. You cannot center yourself. And anybody who's ever thrown a punch, when you're throwing the punch, it is about how you're able to move those hips. And I don't know if they would call it torque, how you get around. You may have some arm strength, but it's nothing if you're able to put the weight of your body into it, behind it, and really get the full punch going. You need to be able to have your legs in order to do that. You need to be able to have the stance and bear the weight. Leg kicks take that away from you. Getting hit with leg kicks again and again and again and again eventually takes away your ability to punch, and nothing has happened to your arms. It's all connected. I equate leg kicks to self-inflicted wounds. I hate self-inflicted wounds, and I think this is one of them. What are you getting in the way for, Donald Trump? Get out of the damn way. Do not be the story when the story is so destructive to the guy you're running against. You want to tell a story, and you may argue, Tony, Trump's not running against Nikki Haley. It's Nikki Haley. She's down 30 points in South Carolina, and she isn't going to make a comeback for 30 points. Point granted. I'll give. Why create any other story? Why not force Democrats to be able to have conversations, force them into having conversations like this one?
So I think that's a really interesting point that I hadn't heard. And I do agree that it is important to, like, norms are important, right? The reason we're so far along here is because norms have not been followed. I would say I don't think that Her is a good faith actor, and I think that 345 pages of that show that. I mean, he's not a neurologist, right? If you want to weigh in on legal things, that's fine. But, you know, the idea, and again, to fault someone.
That's Molly Jong-Fast of Vanity Fair, who is ridiculous. Robert Hur, the special counsel, who referred to Joe Biden as an elderly man with a nice elderly man with poor memory, describing how he couldn't remember when he was vice president. He could not remember within years the death of his son, Beau Biden. Well, he's not a neurologist. You don't have to be a neurologist to notice that somebody has lost their step. You don't have to be a neurologist in order to say that guy's not okay. I don't have to be a biologist to know what a woman is. I don't need to be a neurologist to know whether or not my grandpa's doing all right. Isn't it better that we're having this conversation regarding Joe Biden's incapacity, meaning we're focused on the subject that matters? We're focused on the fact that this man is incapable. He's mentally incapable of doing the job. He can't stand trial, but he can be president. How in the world does one engage that conversation in a rational way? That's what we should be talking about. No, instead, we're having to talk about Trump and his going after Haley's husband. Haley's husband, by the way, is serving in the military. Why are you asking where her husband is? Now, it's not like Haley responded well.
Donald Trump had a rally today. And in that rally, he mocked my husband's military service. And I'll say this. Donald, if you have something to say, don't say it behind my back. Get on a debate stage and say it to my face.
She just missed the whole damn point. Get on a debate stage? What is that going to do? If you want to go after Trump for having his own mental issues, you say Donald Trump doesn't know my husband's serving in the military? Doesn't he know that my husband is serving so he could say dumb things like that on air? He doesn't know that, and you go after him. Why doesn't he debate me? That is a boring argument. Talk about missing your moment. You don't even get to seethe properly, Nikki Haley. Good gosh. He didn't say it behind your back. He said it in front of thousands of people in South Carolina. Even when you're given the opportunity, Nikki Haley, you screw it up. That is stunning. I hate the unenforced error. I hate. It's like Madeline Kahn in Clue. Seething, burning flames out of the side of my face. It drives me nuts. But maybe nothing is crazier than how people took Trump's conversation regarding NATO nations paying their fair share, or really just what they owe.
They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
That was taken by people I like and people I don't like. Oh, I'm going to try not to curse on radio. I'm pretty sure you don't get paid that way. I'm pretty sure if I unleash, I don't get paid, and I like getting paid. So I'm going to try and find a way to do this. Donald Trump did not state as a policy, I favor Russia attacking NATO nations and doing whatever the hell they want. That is not what happened here. Not by any stretch of the imagination is that what happened. Here's what happened. Donald Trump put together in that moment, and it's so obvious that it's kind of hard to fathom anybody seeing it otherwise. A conversation of, well, let's say we didn't pay. Let's say we didn't pay. What's the worst that could happen? What Trump put together right there, which anybody who has any life experience whatsoever would have put together. He put together a conversation about how a conversation could go. Tommy, so let's say I don't pay you nothings. Let's say I know you tell me I gotta pay. You're like, Paulie, you gotta pay. Well, that's true, Paulie, you gotta pay. You say to me, Paulie, I gotta pay, but I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay. And let's say somebody bothers me. Tommy, let's say somebody bothers me. What are you gonna do? You're not gonna protect me? You're not gonna protect me? Paulie, listen. Listen to me, Paulie. Listen to me, Paulie. You gotta pay for the protection. What am I gonna do? I'm not getting paid. How am I supposed to protect you? Something bad happens. These things happen. You know what I mean? It's gosh, jeepers. You know, if you had paid, you wouldn't have to worry. It wouldn't even be a question. It wouldn't even be a conversation. You wouldn't have to worry about these things. But you don't pay. I don't even know. I don't know what could happen. I don't even want to think of such a thing. That's such a terrible thought. If I were you, I'd pay. Because I don't know. I don't want to think about it the other way. That's what Trump is saying. That's as obvious as the day is long. That's what Donald Trump is saying. Anybody who thinks otherwise is out of their head. Do you think that was Trump putting forth a theory that he hopes that Russia attacks other nations? If Trump had been president, the odds are that Ukraine wouldn't even have been attacked. So what is the argument here that he favors this idea that somehow other nations should be attacked? It is so blank and ridiculous on its face, and I'm sick and tired of children. I'm exhausted by people who have zero life experience. People so desperate to go after someone, to engage the attack, they don't take a moment to say, wait a second, what got said here? Go back and listen again to what it is that Trump actually said here.
They asked me that question. One of the presidents of a big country stood up and said, well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
Are you telling me that everyone didn't understand that this was a conversation, even if it happened, that Trump would have in private with another world leader to get him to do what he wants? What's the matter? You don't think that the United States has ever put the squeeze on someone before? You don't think the United States has ever engaged in trying to pressure someone before? Let's at least all grow up. Of course we have. Of course, that's what diplomacy is. Diplomacy is pressure. You're not going to pay. Best of luck figuring out that Russian onslaught. You know, those guys will just throw bodies at you. They don't give a damn. Oh, Putin doesn't care who dies. As long as he gets caviar, he's just keep throwing bodies right at. They're going to be flying like it's a Monty Python skit, just one right after another. You really think that's his policy? Let Russia do whatever the hell they want? Do you know how absolutely ignorantly stupid you have to be to believe that? That isn't what he said. When he talks about Nikki Haley's husband, I think it's the dopiest thing he could do. Make Joe Biden the story, Joe Biden's incompetence the story, Joe Biden's lack of mental capacity the story, and look at all the progressives, desperate. They'll lie, they'll do anything to somehow get you to believe that Joe Biden's fine. He's not fine. They're more interested in power than they are in the country. That's who they are. Don't get in the way of us noticing that. Be somebody who says you guys should notice this. Don't make it about yourself. Don't be cute. Don't be special. For the love of God, let Joe Biden lose. Just win by letting him lose. But I'm going to have so-called intellectuals on the political right saying this is what Trump said. This is his policy on Russia. It's so ignorant that somebody would actually think that's what he meant. Based on what he said, and you just heard it, that it boggles the mind. Man, the self-inflicted wound or ignorance, which one is worse? Oh, no, wait. Sometimes they're the same. I'm Tony Katz. Welcome back, everybody. Don't forget to get over to Rumble or YouTube if you're not already there and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, Zuckerberg. Does he know he sucks? He just does. One day I'm going to get kicked off the platform. What does it matter? Terrible what he does. I don't think he should be subjected to struggle sessions in front of Congress, which exactly what Josh Hawley did to him. But he's terrible. A terrible person, and the lack of free speech on that platform. I mean, I'm there, but if you're watching there, make sure you like it. And then, of course, on X, At Tony Katz on X. I'm also on LinkedIn. I don't even know if people are like, oh man, I don't need this. I just want a business contact. Could you get me a lead? Right? Subscribe and I'll get you a lead on LinkedIn. That's not how it works. It's not even science. But we're limited everywhere. So good to be with you, and we are going to get back to the radio show in another, I think, 30 seconds. Israel, of course, rescuing some hostages. I've got that story. And the challenge against the squad is going very, very well. You look at that latest polling regarding Congresswoman Cori Bush in Missouri, and you're like, okay, this is possible. But it's a question of how it's possible. It's a question of tactic. And some people aren't willing to engage a tactic to get to where they're going in a long-term way. And sometimes that tactic means you don't get what you want until later. This idea that you want everything to be your way now. And if it's not, well, then forget it. Burn it all down. I mean, that brings you to Congressman Mike Gallagher out of Wisconsin, who's decided not to run for re-election. But he did not vote in favor of impeachment of Mayorkas. Well, I think he was wrong about that. But that doesn't mean you destroy the guy when he's a very, very good conservative vote for so many other things. I'll talk about it in a second. Come back to the radio show. Israel has gone about rescuing 2 hostages. And of course, all you hear about is how 67 Palestinians are dead. Those are numbers from Hamas. The Gazan Health Ministry is Hamas. I'm not listening to their numbers. People who can't get running water to their citizens. People who will put children up as shields to protect their missiles. All of a sudden, they've got perfect numbers on how many people are dead and how many are children, how many are women, and how many are civilians. No, it's a fraud. It's a lie. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Special forces entering a building in the center of Rafah. 2 hostages guarded by Palestinian Islamist Hamas forces were kept. This according to the story from DPA International. First civilian hostages that Israeli soldiers have been able to free since October 7th. And people are infuriated. My gosh, this is just another example of war crimes by Israel. Oh, I see it everywhere. War crimes. All of this stops when Hamas is destroyed. See, some people think that this stops when Hamas gives up the hostages. I think there's an opportunity for that. Me, I wouldn't stop until Hamas is destroyed. When the Palestinians, quote unquote, give up Hamas, they're over here. They're right here. Get them over here. This will stop. The pressure should be on Hamas to surrender. The pressure should be on Hamas to give up. And it's not. We're talking about hostages. Why aren't you recommending and pressuring Hamas to release the hostages? Well, they're a terrorist organization. You see what Israel needs to do? Israel doesn't have to abide by some code that you won't apply equally. And we should be clear, they do live up to a code. They inform people when there are going to be raids. Inform the citizens, hey, you got to move out of the way. They have worked tirelessly to not kill civilians, but yes, civilians have gotten killed. Of this, I have no doubt, because it's a war. And the problem is, all of these people behind their keyboards on social media, they can't accept the fact that it's a war and Hamas started the war. Hamas is the enemy. Hamas is the violence party. Hamas is the danger. Hamas, once they're eradicated, we can actually have peace. It can happen. Oh, and you might have to get rid of Iran and the terrorist organization there and the support of terrorism. But no. Israel has to stop. If Israel stops, Israel gets destroyed. But then again, that for them is a feature, not a bug. I support the getting of hostages to the extent that we know how many hostages are still alive. But I'm not going to listen to people share with me Gaza Health Ministry numbers. No. None of those numbers are accurate. It's all a lie. And you're perpetuating the propaganda nonsense. People have died in this war, undoubtedly true. And they will until Hamas surrenders. So tell Hamas to surrender. I'm Tony Katz. And I'll have More for you guys in a minute. We will be right back. So I'm going to get into the story about Cori Bush. That is going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to get to this story today. I should, because I don't know the dude. Like, I don't know Brett Gelman. He's over at he's an actor, and he's on Stranger Things, and he has a book, and the book signing got canceled in San Francisco because he says anti-Semitism. It was harassment because he's a pro-Israel guy. And there's a part of me that's like, well, I mean, I live in Indianapolis, but I could put together a book signing here without question. I could put together a whole thing. And I'm like, I don't know. Do I do that? I mean, part of me wants to be supportive in that, in that way, but like, do I have to check this guy's politics 12 ways from Sunday? Okay, we agree about Israel, but we disagree about like 9 other things. Or that's him, by the way. That is a fine outfit. Do I have to concern myself with that? Right? He's in New York in middle March, West Hollywood, the end of March. I don't know. Maybe we host maybe we host a book signing. I could do that. My radio station's here, and yeah, I think we can get a crowd. I don't know. Do I do it? You tell me. We're coming back to the radio show. How to deal with the squad. How to go about getting what it is that you want, and how sometimes you got to take time to get there. That's coming up right now. You have to accept the fact that incrementalism has a value. I sometimes think I'm the only conservative left who values this concept. Sometimes I also think I'm the only conservative left. Tony Katz today. What's going on? Find everything at TonyKatz.com. It's that I'm not a populist, and I'm like super clear about it. I think it might bother some people, and the answer is okay, it bothers you. Actual conservatism, actual principles, actual philosophy. It's why from the very beginning I've always said that there's nothing more non-conservative than never Trump. There is no more of a ridiculous, I'm full of crap concept that is the antithesis of conservatism than never Trump. Never communism, totally a conservative principle. Never Trump, that's just silly. But I'm not a populist. I've never been. The idea of going about something for some short-term gratification as opposed to creating long-term opportunity. That's never kind of made sense to me. Politically, you are heading towards a goal, and sometimes you can only get what you can get in order to achieve that goal. This brings us to Congresswoman Cori Bush. The story here is that Cori Bush, the representative from Missouri, she herself a race baiter, talk about a nasty bigot. She was there in Ferguson telling us that hands up, don't shoot was a real thing when Michael Brown was never a real thing. Michael Brown was not a gentle giant. Michael Brown attacked a cop and broke his orbital socket, tried to grab his gun. That's who Michael Brown is. And if you don't trust me, you don't take my word for it. It's not my words. It's the words of the Eric Holder Justice Department. Cori Bush has turned this into a career in Congress. Cori Bush is down 22 points in the latest polling. And you're like, man, 22 points in that area of St. Louis. Who's this Republican she's running against? No. This is a primary. This is a primary. And she is down 22 points to a Democratic challenger. This, kids, is the way. This is exactly the way it has to happen. Not in every case, but in some cases. If I could, I would try and convince the people of that area of St. Louis to vote for a conservative. Can't vote for a conservative, vote for a Republican. Can't do that, let's vote for a libertarian. In some cases, the libertarian before the Republican. If I can't do that, what are my options? Keep her? No, my option exists that why don't we vote for a Democrat that if we could just avoid the whole race baiting bigotry, wouldn't that be great? What if we could elect a Democrat? We're going to disagree on abortion. We're going to disagree on spending. We're going to disagree on a host of things. But they don't believe that Israel should be destroyed. And they don't think that anti-Semitism on college campuses is something to cheer. What if we just started there? What if that was just the baseline? Just a little bit better. What if they had concerns about firearms, but they didn't think the Second Amendment should be eradicated? What if that Democrat exists? They used to, and we used to call them Democrats. Now they're radical progressives. You don't always get what you want. So why not take steps towards making it at least a little bit better? And why is this such a problem? This is a different conversation than recognition that, for example, Mitch McConnell may have to go. You do not have to put up with Mitch McConnell. He does not have to be the leader for forever. He might not be the guy anymore. And you say to me, well, does it make sense to replace him? And who else is going to really herd those cats? And the answer is, well, you better have a plan. Kevin McCarthy didn't have to be speaker. My issue was not even removing him. It was that there was no plan after removing him. And that's nonsense. Have a plan. So you removed him. You then took 3 weeks of doing nothing, which, okay, I can accept doing nothing, but you did hurt your own brand. You then bring me Mike Johnson, who so far, when it comes to spending bills, has given me nothing that Kevin McCarthy would not have given me. We are not better off as a party, and we wasted time and we lost capital. Oh, we lost people. We lost Kevin McCarthy. Of course, you got rid of George Santos. So you didn't do anything. But it was the populist play. Got to get rid of McCarthy. What the hell is this? It was the wrong play. It was the wrong play. There was no timing to it. Big hot mess. You want, of course, the victory, and you want maybe some people might call it the purity. Sure. I mean, if that's the way somebody thinks, it's not the way I think, but I get that it might be the way somebody thinks. Okay. But I can't get the populist. No, I'm sorry, the conservative in this area of St. Louis. I can't get it. In my beloved Indianapolis, they elect Andre Carson. Andre Carson is amongst the leaders in showing their disdain for Israel and their Jew hatred, in my view. And I'm not alone in Indianapolis. Finally, Jews are coming out of the woodwork to discuss this. I was just first. I was alone in the so-called Jewish community of Indianapolis. I'm Jewish. Alone in this conversation. Nobody was with me. Why in the world are you inviting Andre Carson to events? Why in the world are you sitting with him? Well, Tony, we have to have a seat at the table. What table are you talking about? That guy hates you. Look at what he does. He has a friendship and will not condemn Louis Farrakhan. He has a friendship with Louis Farrakhan, who refers to people like us as termites. What are you doing? I had been on this subject for years in Indianapolis. Finally, people who privately would agree are now publicly speaking out. Private agreement is one of the most upsetting things in the world. It's awful. I don't want you to agree with me privately. Don't whisper to me that you love it, although I get that some people, they're in jobs, they can't really speak out. Plenty of these people are in a position to speak out. They just don't want to have to take the heat. Don't whisper to me that you like it. Don't do it. Start speaking. Because now, when you whisper to me, now I charge. No, don't whisper to me. Make a donation to my new PAC where we're going to fight these people. I figure that way I can raise a whole bunch of money and we can actually get something done. But it's so despicable that Indianapolis still votes for this guy. And I have been saying for a while, what if you voted for a different Democrat? Just somebody who just didn't think that Louis Farrakhan was a friend. Wouldn't we be just a little bit better off? And the answer is yes, we'd be a little bit better off. And if it can be done with Cori Bush in St. Louis, I think it can be done in Indianapolis. It can be done with Jamal Bowman in New York and with Representative Ocasio-Cortez in New York. Run Democrats against these progressive squad members. The only person you're not going to get is the ringleader, Rashida Tlaib. I think you can get Ilhan Omar out. She almost lost her last race in the primary. Oh my gosh. You have to just keep running against her and make her life so difficult she actually goes back to living with her brother husband. Wait, no. Can I get a ruling on that? No, yes. Is it? I thought it was the brother and it was a fake marriage. Is that not? All right, somebody get back to me on that and we'll get a ruling. Oh, no. She's the home wrecker. She's with the guy who was with the chick and then left for her. Okay. But before that, she was with the brother who was the husband, or at least that's what we think. It's hard to keep up with the sagas, people. You might not be able to get Rashida Tlaib out in her area of Michigan. That's okay. Isolate the hell out of her. This is a good strategy. This strategy does not mean that they will vote these new people the way you want them to vote. It means it's a little bit better. And sometimes That's all you get. Sometimes that's all there is. And somehow we forget this. And this, if you ask, it maybe the key, the real reason I'm not a populist is just that. There is no basis for understanding that small victories are victories, and they build upon themselves. Here's what I've learned from the left. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. The left tries to make a land grab. Massive, massive, massive land grab. They try and say, here's a policy and here's all the things we want to do. And then the political right says, stop that. And so it shrinks. And this little shrunken part, that's what they get. Now, sometimes they get a big land grab like Obamacare. And that's helped along by Supreme Court. But they get this little land grab. That happens on a Tuesday, let's say. Tuesday, they get it done, they get it signed, they say, good, we got that land grab. Wednesday, they go back for all of it again. They do not rest, they do not stop, they do not quit, as the great author Michael Walsh puts it. Against the Great Reset is Michael Walsh, Fiery Angel, Devil's Pleasure Palace. That's all Michael Walsh. They never stop, they never rest, they never quit. They don't stop, they don't rest, they don't quit. They wanted all this, they got a little bit of this, the next day they want it all again. I think that that's a fantastic theory. And I think that's one that Republicans need to be doing. Go for everything. Get the little bit. Next day, go for everything again. Do not stop. Do not rest. Do not quit. Do not stop. This election season, everybody's focused on the presidency, and I get the point. There's a lot of drama and madness within that. Senate and House, please. Governor's races, please. I want to control the Senate and the House. And every single week, I want to be putting another piece of legislation out there. Now, usually I'm not a big legislation guy. Less is more. But the legislation could be to get rid of other legislation. The legislation could be to get rid of regulations and slashing these kinds of things to make life easier on Americans and get rid of the bureaucracy and get rid of the cumbersome paperwork and all these things that cost us money and time, to things you do not want to waste. Every week, something new. Every week, something new. Every week, a press conference. This is the most important subject we have ever come up with, ever. And then the next week, this is the most important subject we've ever come up with, ever. And then the following week, this is the most important subject we've ever come up with, ever. Every week, every week, every week, every week. You're going to have to create something called an editorial calendar. Do it the way they do it. They have taught you. Now just go accept the learning. And part of that learning is little baby steps. A little bit here and a little bit there. Over time, you can quite literally move the center. Because that's what they did. Remember, there was a right and there was a left. And then the left kept moving further left. And you know what they did when they moved further left? They brought the center along with them. The center did not stay. The center moved. Because the left kept moving further left. So therefore, de facto, the center had to be recentered, and that recentering was always to the left. Little victories can bring that back. Little victories are good. And what a wonderful little victory it would be to get Cori Bush, that race baiter, out of Congress. I'm Tony Katz. We will be right back, guys. I have a bunch of stuff to get to. I don't know. We just made this one. I don't know if there's sound with this one, Sarah. I'm not sure. You tell me. I don't think there is. We're going to have to maybe I can play some sound. Keep it here. And just like that, we are back. I was sending out a text right there. Once I've been working on a new podcast, and a little bit out of my comfort zone, but conceptually I love it, and I'm hoping that it all comes through and I can share it with you, because we're going to bring it here. It's education based. It's not usually where I live and breathe, because as opposed to Randy Weingarten, I think you need an actual expertise in having the discussion. I always believe that the parent is responsible, right? The parent is in charge of their kid's education in every way, and education exists for the parent. Oh, try and get people on the left to rationalize that. No, it's for the student. The student gets to decide. Students cannot decide because students are children. Children are under the purview of their parents. Whenever they say it's about the child, you always have to remember that their objective is to cleave the child from the parent. That's a very that sometimes doesn't hit people at the first. It's extremely important to remember. But it's understanding how people broke out of certain educational mindsets, particularly and specifically the idea of public education as it sits today. You know, people who went private, people who went homeschooled, and hearing how they did it. That's the conversation. How did they break out of it? That's where it is. And I will be coming up, I'll be getting into the whole national anthem conversation and responding to commentaries like this that prove my point, not their point. And guys like Mark, you exist on these things to be a troll. I get it, man. I get that's what you want, but I don't think you know what you said. We'll get into it. The radio show's coming back. Lloyd Austin, he is the Secretary of Defense. And he, I'm still playing my music. Sorry about that, guys. Tony Katz today. Wait, is it still playing? Hold on, how do I get it to stop? Ah, there we go. That was super creepy. Lloyd Austin is in a hospital. He's the Secretary of Defense. And at least this time, they figured out how to tell everybody.
Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has been hospitalized at Walter Reed for a bladder issue. At about 5 p.m. yesterday, he transferred the functions and duties of his office to his Deputy Secretary, Kathleen Hicks. The White House, Congress, and the Joint Chiefs were notified of this issue.
At least they're getting that part better. They actually told people that, hey, he's going to be out for a while. I'm going to get a little more into this later. I certainly wish the man well, but this is a bladder emergency, which it can happen and sounds awful. Are we sure we were given the story in full about his health? It was a cancer diagnosis and getting treatment. And then he very oddly said, I'm a black man, and so therefore I didn't share everything. I don't know if it's about sharing it with me, but you certainly have to tell the president of the United States where you are. Your staff didn't tell nobody. I'm sorry. That's just nutty. You served in the military. You know the rules. You were AWOL as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how that isn't met with a serious reprimand and punishment and removal. But this time you were able to tell everybody. So, okay, you learned that rule, which you already knew. My question is, well, it's certainly possible that something could happen unrelated to the thing prior, or maybe because of the thing prior and just manifesting in a different way. The cancer diagnosis. Are we sure we're being told everything here? And yes, I believe we absolutely have a right to know that. And I will get into that coming up. Also, there's one national anthem, and people who don't like it need to cope. This is Tony Katz today. So you see what I did there, Mark? I used your cope thing right there. And I'll get to it. Also, sorry about the music. I didn't realize the music was still playing. All right, we are going to take the break. So we've got like 10 minutes in between when the radio show comes back. So I've got some stuff to share, and we will get to it, and we will get back to you guys in just a few. So keep it right here. Oh, by the way, RFK and the commercial yesterday, it wasn't him. It was a PAC that put that out during the Super Bowl. It was good. Here, I actually spoke to Robert Kennedy, and here it is. What is the strategy to beat President Biden in a primary, considering that the Democratic Party has stated that no debates? We heard this from Simone Sanders on MSNBC not too long ago. No debates, so no chance for you to engage in this conversation. So what do you think the move point, the pivot point is for Democrats?
Well, what are you asking? Are you asking what is my kind of path to victory?
Correct.
Well, I think that it's unfortunate that the president is not going to debate. I think this is a time in our nation's history when so many people are feeling like the system is rigged against them, and the electoral system is also rigged. And the Democratic Party ought to be at the spear tip of convincing Americans that, of creating an election that's a template for democracy, where there's retail politics, real debate. And that we're not like the Soviet Union, where the party picks the candidates. But I still think that there are ways around that. I mean, I've spent many years, almost 18 years, being censored by the mainstream media, and particularly the last 3 years of blanket sort of wall-to-wall censorship. But we figured out ways around that. We've figured out ways to communicate with people that are not dependent on the mainstream media. And some of that is, when my uncle ran Tony in 1960, television was a new invention. And he understood that it was going to decide the presidential elections, and he took advantage of that. And I think in 2016, Twitter served kind of the same, played a critical role in that election. Twitter continues to do that today. And then there's all these podcasts, which I think are an emerging media. Podcasts are really interesting because my kids, I always complain that my kids have these short attention spans because they were raised in the age of iPhones.
Right.
And that anything that doesn't give them this immediate intensity quickly, that they lose attention, lose patience for. My kids, who I have 7 kids who are between 19 years old and 35 years old. And all of them listen to podcasts. They'll sit for 3 hours and listen to, Sam Harris or Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan.
But not Tony Katz? They're not listening to Tony Katz?
And yes, of
Savagery.
course, totally Tony Katz.
Savagery.
Just getting to that.
This conversation, you've had it in your own life, and we've had it in multiple places, where we see that the agency class in the United States is not actually focused on what it is the agency is supposed to be doing. Rather, they're focused on everything else. If the CDC can then tell us that, well, guns are a threat to national security and safety, and so we have to do something about guns via the Centers for Disease Control, you realize that they believe they can do anything. And what we've created in the United States is this completely unaccountable group, this fourth branch of government, the agency class, that isn't responsible to us, that isn't accountable to us. They have a budget that is near unlimited. They say something, it has the full effect of law. It is a complete bypassing of Congress. Now, in a standard world, in a normal world, in a thinking world, what you would have is rules and regulations, thoughts and philosophies that actually make things better. But if, as Glenn points out in this piece that you can find over there at the New York Post, if we're engaged in mission creep, how does one focus on what the mission is? And if we're talking about the very critical things about safety and security, but instead the FBI wants to go about surveilling Trump supporters for 2024, or as Glenn points out, going after churches, then how could you possibly keep an eye on the person who wants to set the church on fire? We hear about this in the most immediate way of what value is the terror watch list when we see somebody commit an act of terrorism who was on the terror watch list. And the answer is there is no purpose to it. Who watches the watch list and what happens to these people when something happens? No FBI member gets fired. No one on this organization gets fired, or in this agency gets fired. No one ever loses their job for it. No one ever suffers the consequences of their failure. But somehow we're supposed to be rest assured or feel secure because a watch list exists. We can only feel secure if the job is done. How Israel didn't do their job is beyond understanding. And if it's this idea of Mossad focused on these judicial reforms as opposed to the enemy, that's a whole nother conversation. Was Israel complacent? We've got a fence and we've got an Iron Dome. We're fine. No, the enemy doesn't think that. You get lulled into it. The enemy still hates you. This is a huge warning for the United States, and we should be very focused on it. Guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Tony Katz today. A lot of nutty commentary today here. People commenting, some on Rumble. Rumble's pretty normal. But commenting, I think it's from Facebook. NATO is not a Queens, New York apartment complex. Okay. Good to know. There are no dues. You can't be in arrears. They don't owe us anything. It's a military alliance where countries agree to spend 2% of their GDP for defense and to support each other against aggression. But what happens when they're not paying their 2%? Forgive me, I got a little choked up there. What happens when they're not paying their 2%? And obviously there are dues. I mean, the whole apartment complex thing is super weird. There is something you can be in arrears. We have a former president who creates an international relations issue for no good reason. He has zero impulse control or judgment, confused a photo of a sexual assault victim with his ex-wife. But let's talk about Biden mixing up a name on occasion. On occasion. At this moment, we stop. This whole butt Trump thing is as ridiculous and sad as anything else out there. The people who engage but Trump, they're admitting they are unable. They are unable. It's an inability or an unwillingness to recognize reality. Trump's not president. I don't care if you like the guy. I don't give a damn if you like the guy. Don't vote for him. It's fine by me, but Joe Biden cannot sit in the Oval Office and have his finger on the button. And nothing but Trump changes that. Why is it that you refuse to recognize it? Not you, them. Why do they refuse to recognize this? And why should I take them seriously? Why should I take you seriously, Mark? Why? There's nothing to take seriously here. You're an unserious guy. You can troll. You could think that you've got some kind of I don't know, even know what you would call it, a moral authority, but you don't. You just don't. This is going to bring us to the national anthem. Mark is telling me to cope. Okay. I'm happy to address this. Happy to address this. Because the idea that you think there should be two national anthems, The idea that anybody would shows you how far we still have to go as a nation. And why is it that some people are very, very aggressive about wanting segregation? Super strange. Anyway, we're coming back to the radio show, and I'm going to get into this. So keep it here. Don't forget to subscribe over at TonyKatz.com, or at, that's where you can be a supporter, or subscribe on Rumble or YouTube. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Those are the starting lyrics from James Weldon Johnson. I believe I've got the author right. Lift every voice and sing. It was a poem written in 1900. And very often, this is thought of as the Black national anthem. And allow me to state for the record, there's no such thing. No such thing as a Black national anthem or a white national anthem. It's the United States of America. There's a national anthem. As a matter of fact, if you believe in anything else, well, that's pretty strange. Tony Katz today. It's good to be with you. There are people desperate for you to believe something else. So much so that at the Super Bowl, the Chiefs won 25-22 in overtime. Great, wonderful, terrific. Is it over? Good. You saw this. This is Fox News had the story, and it's how Steve Cohen, who we refer to here as KF Steve Cohen, the guy who actually brought Kentucky Fried Chicken onto the floor of the House because, I don't know, Trump was a chicken or something like that. It was pretty nonsense. He is upset with fans of the Super Bowl who did not stand for Lift Every Voice and Sing, which he referred to. And by the way, I am not afraid of words. I am quoting the congressman who put out on X, very, very few stood at the Super Bowl for Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Negro national anthem, not a pretty picture of Super Bowl crowd. Okay. Let's take a moment to take a step back and ask ourselves what we're looking at here. There are some who see the idea of Lift Every Voice and Sing as this idea of a Black national anthem. And clearly, Congressman Steve Cohen is one of those people. That somehow, in the NFL world of end racism, and it takes all of us and all the other sloganeering that they do, this is a very important bit of messaging. It's very, very important that they engage this level of outreach. I believe this to be a wholly dangerous proposition. And I would say so about any song that isn't the national anthem being thought of as some group's national anthem. There's no such thing as a Black national anthem. There is the national anthem. Because if there is indeed a Black national anthem, you're saying there is a nation within a nation. No, there could be cultures within a nation. There could be affiliations within a nation. But we are all Americans. It is one nation under God, indivisible. I don't know if I have to repeat the words to you, Congressman, but I'm happy to do it. It is one nation. And the thing we should be striving for is to be Americans. Why are you, Congressman Steve Cohen, striving for segregation? Because it's exactly what you are striving for. It's like this post that I got. Jim Crow laws didn't allow Black people to sing the national anthem with white people, so they made their own. Lift Every Voice and Sing is 121 years old. Cope, first of all, if 1900 and it's 2024, it's 124 years old, but I don't want to have to do math for you. Secondly, if you want to argue that there were laws that prevented such a thing, those laws don't exist today. Your move. This goes to Frederick Douglass. right? Of what to the slave is the 4th of July, an extremely important speech, I believe was delivered in Rochester, New York. The Rochester Institute of Technology actually has statues dedicated to Frederick Douglass. It's super cool. His argument was unbelievably sound, that if you're going to discuss the profundity of the Constitution, the value of the Constitution, the importance of the Constitution, and you are now going to celebrate the foundation of a great nation, of a free nation, of one nation under God. Well, these are all good things. And I, for one, want to cheer for those things, because I want to cheer for a free nation. I want to cheer for a nation that lives under this Constitution that provides and ensures, I should say, and enables the rights that exist to us by nature and nature's law. But Frederick Douglass's point was clear. How could the slave possibly cheer this when it doesn't apply to them? Thus, of what to the slave is the 4th of July is unbelievably profound. It is not profound when it is shared like a half a roll of toilet paper underneath the stall at the local Arby's among social media pseudo-intellectual types who think that, aha, this is why the 4th of July doesn't matter. First of all, it's not 4th of July, it's Independence Day when we discuss it in the vernacular, because that's what it's about. And secondly, the conversation that Frederick Douglass was having was about getting the nation to recognize that we're missing a moment. We actually believe in freedom, but we are not living up to it. What the hell, folks? As opposed to today, where there is no slavery, and there has not been in a century. Certainly, we have to be people who look at history. Certainly, we have to recognize the failings of the political left since that time and take a look at what it took to bring us through the 60s of the 1960s and into today. Certainly, we should be people who are studied and steeped in history, including things like the Tulsa Race Massacre, which is barbaric. But one does not get to a more perfect union if one is proactive in supporting segregation. And that is happening all over the place from the political left. An active, proactive support of segregation. So much so that you now have members of Congress advocating for it. Referring to something as the national anthem for not all of America, but part of America. This is a Democratic congressman stating clearly that if you are black, somehow you're not actually part of the country. This is not somebody standing up for people. This is somebody stepping on their damn neck. Why in the world do we have to even think that that's not the case? We have to explain this to people? This has to get explained? All right. I didn't know I'd have to explain it. I had no idea that I'd have to explain it. He went on to say, as people disagreed with Congressman Cohen on social media, well, I honor our national anthem and respect it as representing our country and our pride in it. However, if you look at the history and some of the verbiage, it does relate to slavery and not in a questioning manner. Oh, we're getting into are we getting into the third verses of the Star Spangled Banner now? I got to admit, I'm not prepared to bring that to you, because I didn't realize how unbelievably daft Congressman Cohen is. And this is, you ask why I'm not a progressive. The answer is simple. Look what it does to the brain. Look how it destroys. Look how it ruins. Look at how it decimates, never mind the mind, but the soul. There is no way to be one nation if we think there are multiple national anthems. Just can't be. There's no practical way to make this happen. And let me state, for the record, I'll have this conversation anywhere. Invite me to a black church. I'm going to have this exact conversation. Your church, your synagogue, your mosque, your college campus, your boardroom. I'm going to have this conversation. The room is going to be filled with all different types of people. I'm going to have this conversation without an ounce of fear. Why would I have any fear? To think that we should be a nation of two national anthems is madness and a divided, segregated society. Why would we be in favor of this? Yet we see it all the time. Black students should be with black teachers. Black patients should be with black doctors. You actually, concordance is how it gets discussed. You see this now all the time. You see, there need to be safe spaces where no one who looks a certain way is allowed. There needs to be dorms that are only this and not that. I have no issue with groups and affinity groups. If there's a black college, I think that's fine. If there's a black a fraternity, I think that's fine. If there is a black business owners guild, I think it's fine. I think you can have anything. Although I think someone who tried to create a white business owners guild might find themselves having an issue. I have no problem with it. Just like in the same way, I had no problem with, for example, Jordan Peele. I've discussed this before. He wants to make movies that have all black casts because he's seen these movies with white casts. He wants to see them with a black cast. Go make your movie. I don't tell people how to make movies. I don't tell them how to make movies. That's why I think when the Oscars say, well, in order to be nominated for Best Picture, you have to have someone like this and someone like that, and someone like this, and 2 of those, and 6 of those, and 3 of those. Give me some of those naked lady tees, a couple of those pens. It's Caddyshack. It's Rodney Dangerfield in the pro shop. That's not the way you do things. That's not how you choose what's the best movie of the year, because it picks and chooses based on some, 1 from column A, 2 from column B mathematics of whether or not you have the proper amount of diversity. That doesn't make any sense. That's valueless. That is, again, this push towards a segregated society. Does the singing of the song matter? Well, I think it does. Nicole Hannah-Jones, who lied in creating the 1619 Project, the whole 1619 Project is a fraud, said the Star Spangled Banner, quote, "It was written by a racist enslaver who believed black people were inferior and fought abolitionists in the court, and she then wants you to know that the white national anthem is already played." So here is this bigot, Nicole Hannah-Jones, pushing this idea, which again proves where I'm at, because the society she wants is fully divided. Fully divided. I don't think being fully divided is valuable. And certainly we have a national anthem and it is for everyone. But let's talk about the people who now want to push this idea. They want the division. Can we ask what we get out of that? If you actually think there should be a black national anthem, what comes next? What is the win? What is the victory? What is the result? What is the goal? What do you achieve? Where does it take us? What do we then aspire to? What do we then achieve? If this happens, the question for Nicole Hannah-Jones is what comes next? And you realize very quickly that, A, there's never an answer for this, because the answer is not to get to what's next. It isn't to achieve up. It's to devolve down. If you were to actually do something this maddening and actually believe in something this maddening, you would be really codifying the idea of a divided America. And that's pushing the idea that we should divide, that we should split up, that we should splinter, that we should break. that we should not think of ourselves all as Americans, but rather as these groups. This is part of the hyphenization conversation. I'm Mexican American, I'm Italian American, I'm Greek American, I'm this American. No, you're not. You're American. That's the way it's supposed to work. And you might be saying, Tony, are you quoting Ralphie May? I would have said Ralphie May was quoting me, rest his soul. But this is it. Hyphenization is destructive because it says there's a subset here and a subset here and a subset here and a subset here. You notice how all these things come together. No one ever talks about how these things come together. When we have the conversation, we're actually talking about the inclusivity. Look at how non-inclusive Congressman Cohen is. Look at how non-inclusive Nicole Hannah-Jones is. And they're proud of it. And they think they're righteous. They cannot build a society. And that's when you learn they're actually not trying to build one. That's not their interest. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. And guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Good to be with you. I want to see where the Dow was and get into that. And then also the story about the shooting at Osteen's church. Like, there's been a bunch has come from this. I got to get to, but I had some, like, did I talk about the, yeah, all right, I did that right there. I should have posted that. I apologize. And then I had, Hillary. And I've got, all right, I gotta get to all of it. I'm gonna get to everything. Promise. How soon till we back? There, Nathaniel? 30 seconds. I can do that right there. So I got to get to that. Don't forget to subscribe on Rumble or YouTube. Greatly appreciate it if you would. Can't thank you enough. I will get to those things. I'm just checking some latest news, making sure I got Joe Biden yelling at everybody. He wants you to know that prices have gone down. True story. Come back to the show. Right now, the Dow is up 222. NASDAQ is up 45. I saw that Bitcoin broke 50. And just a couple weeks ago, it was at 40. And no, I didn't buy any. Don't judge me. Don't. I'm okay. I am okay not being involved in certain things. Maybe I should be. Maybe, if I was a smart guy. But it's fine. It's good. Tony Katz today. This is the story I love. This one makes me so happy. Jeff Bezos is going to save $600 million by moving to Miami. Because you have in Washington State a 7% capital gains tax on the sale of stock or bonds more than $250,000. So he's going to unload 50 million shares. That's how it's reported by CNBC. And it's the picture of him walking with his, is it the wife or is it the girlfriend, Lauren Sanchez? Can I say so she works out a lot and she isn't afraid to show off the body. And that's exactly why Bezos is doing it. And this guy went from the nerdy guy with his wife building this company to he's buff. I'm assuming there's 9 million blood transfusions going on. I have no idea how the guy does what he does. But I don't know. Like sometimes I look at a picture of her and I'm like, her face is very strong. I just don't know. I just don't think it's for me. It's not a look I would go for. But teach their own. He is going to unload 50 million shares of Amazon before January 31st, 2025. And now that he lives in Florida, it's going to save him approximately, or at least they say $610 million. $610 million. Does anybody think that the state of Florida would be better off with that money instead of Jeff Bezos? Washington State would be better off with that money than Jeff Bezos? How? How would anybody think that acceptable, possible, doable? This is a great conversation regarding taxation and the violence that it is. Well, wait, taxation is theft. So how could it not be violent? De facto, if it's theft, it has to be violent. So the question is, why would anybody think that that the state is better off, or we're all better off that the state has the money and not Jeff Bezos? I want Jeff Bezos to do with that money whatever it is he damn well chooses. If it's investing, if it's buying a new boat, if it's charity work, if it's plastic surgery for somebody he knows, whatever it is, I think that's exactly where he should put his money. And he knows better than the state of Washington and the state of Florida. Good on him. Jill Biden wants you to know that it's just wrong that you question her husband's mental acuity. No, it's not. It's the most rational thing you could possibly do. And Hillary Clinton wants you to know that Joe Biden's age, well, that's a serious issue. It's a serious issue and one that we should discuss. We should discuss Joe Biden's age a lot. This is Tony Katz Today. What? Hey, hold on a second, Nathan. What happened there? Okay. Yep. All right. Very good. We moving on. Usually I hear some music playing as we're coming out of segment. I'm like, it's not happening. It happens. Sometimes we miss the thing. Live and learn and moving on. Guys, we'll be right back.
Growth is strong, wages are rising, inflation is down. In fact, the costs have fallen from a gallon of gas to a gallon of milk. We know prices are still too high because of what I call greedflation and shrinkflation.
That's Joe Biden. He wants you to know the prices are too high, and he wants you to know it's because of those terrible companies. Did you see him, that video before the Super Bowl? Disgusting. He doesn't do the interview at the Super Bowl, which is free advertising, and he desperately needs it for a presidential race because he's not up to an interview. He's not up to it. He can barely just read off the teleprompter. But he can sit there and tell you that companies are greedy and evil. I don't believe in greed, but evil and terrible because they're putting less ice cream in a container and charging you the same amount. How about economic reality? Nobody likes shrinkflation. We're all opposed to it. You don't take a look at your own economic policies and what that may have contributed to it. They're just greedy. Well, how much do they owe you? Why does ice cream come in a half gallon? Shouldn't it come in a 27-gallon tub, but be the same exact price as the half gallon? I mean, if not, well, then we just have to nationalize these companies. Literally how he's talking. It's so gross. It is so, he hates entrepreneurs, not because I said so, but because he said so. Tony Katz today, what's going on? Oh, he wasn't done.
The American infrastructure plan used to, we used to be the best in the world in infrastructure. Literally, we were ranked number one in the world.
Do I know what? He said,
The American infrastructure plan used to, we used to be.
Like he wanted to say something, but he didn't quite remember what it is he was going to say. He just didn't remember how that was going to go about, which is funny because as we've all said, it's clear that Joe Biden is not all there, not okay, doesn't have his mind. He has a very, very bad memory. It's clear that he's got problems. Funny, Alejandro Mayorkas doesn't think so.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
That is the Secretary of Homeland Security campaigning for his boss. I mean, that's what it is. Isn't that right, Senator Coons?
The White House,
Jonathan, I don't know what the White House will or won't disclose, but here's what I know of the president I work with and alongside whom I serve. When I came back from the Middle East with a bipartisan group of 10 senators, we went to Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. I thought the president might have us over to the White House for 15, 20 minutes. He had us in at 7 o'clock at night. We sat down with his national security team, and for 2.5 hours, he went around the table and asked for our insights and our input, and then he led a masterful conversation about the challenges to our security, the pathway to peace, the difficulties with Iran and with its proxies. And as we walked out 2.5 hours later from the White House, I turned to one of my Republican colleagues who is not publicly a big fan of the president. I said, "What did you think?" And he said, "That's incredible. This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on in the Middle East and around the world." And as
no one believes you, Senator Coons. No one. And in all of these conversations regarding Biden's mind, you get what Mitch Landrieu, who he's the former governor of Louisiana, or is he the former mayor of New Orleans? I always forget. Is he the former governor, or is he the former mayor of just New Orleans? Mayor of New Orleans. He was lieutenant governor of Louisiana. Okay, so I do have that right. He was the lieutenant governor and he was the mayor. There it is. You see, that isn't a conversation of age. That's a conversation of, I don't study Louisiana politics that much. I know the name, and I know he served one of those capacities. That's different than Joe Biden saying, I'm talking to a dead guy, Francois Mitterrand, the former president of France, who died in 1996. But all of these guys, when confronted with the reality that Joe Biden isn't okay, all have one defense, but Trump.
Well, let's just say two things. This election is going to be about two men, but really two different visions for the country. President Trump just the other night confused what day of the week it was. He has confused who the leader of North Korea and China are. He's confused the leaders of Hungary and Turkey. By the way, Speaker Mike Johnson was on the other day, and he confused Iraq and Iran. And, of course, President Trump doesn't know the difference between Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley. And, oh, by the way, last night President Trump saw fit to basically dump on Nikki Haley's husband, who is serving in the military right now because he hasn't around.
Never mind that part of it, which you've already heard I'm not happy with. All of the things that Mitch Landrieu just stated are reasons not to vote for Donald Trump. But if those are reasons not to vote for Donald Trump, then it's certainly a reason to get Joe Biden away from the button. You can't let him be in charge. He's not cogent. It's not safe, you weirdos. Why are you acting like it is? It's not safe. But they cannot go a moment without saying, but Trump. But Trump is not an argument. It's not. But Trump is a ridiculous statement, one of weakness and truly a pathetic nature. But Trump says, I'm unwilling to debate, but rather my feelings must be expressed. Your feelings, not you. I shouldn't say you. Their feelings are crap. Your feelings are ridiculous. Your feelings show you to be a beta male. Your feelings show that I can only hope you don't procreate, because holy hell, are you going to raise some terrible kids? And it's not their fault that they're never going to know of having a mind and a soul and thinking of things logically. Instead, they've got this hyper emotional freak as a parent who can't get over the fact that their loving candidate is simply incapable of doing the job. So instead of dealing with that reality, they scream, but Trump. Pathetic stuff. Jill Biden has added to this. Jill Biden is angry because of what it is the special counsel did, trying to earn political points, talking about the death of her son, Beau Biden. That is not what happened. That is not what happened. The First Lady lashing out because the special counsel, Robert Hur, H-U-R is the last name, said that Joe Biden is an old man, poor memory, nice guy, but couldn't remember when he was vice president, and could not remember within years the death of when his son, Beau Biden, died. And Joe Biden states, I hope you can imagine how it felt to read that attack, not just as Joe's wife, but as Beau's mother. She wrote this in an email to donors. I don't know what the special counsel was trying to achieve. We should give everyone grace, and I can't imagine someone would try to use our son's death to score political points. No. You have it all wrong. No one's trying to score political points. It's that your husband didn't remember because your husband has memory issues, because your husband isn't okay, because your husband can't be president. And I don't really care if you're bothered by it. You are under the impression, Joe Biden, and this is going to seem personal, and it is, you're under the impression that a man noticing that another man cannot remember when his son died might be a problem. You think that that's insulting. I think it's insulting that you think that your husband, who is mentally incapable, could put my kids at risk. The memory of your son is sacrosanct. How dare anybody even mention him? But your husband putting my children at risk because he's incapacitated, that's fine? Dr. Jill Biden, who the hell are you? Are you out of your head? Why would you think this way? You know, by the way, I feel bad about that one. I shouldn't you say, who the hell are you? That's amongst the cheapest stuff. I'm better than that. I got 1,000,000 quips, darling. I can do better than that. Why do you think that your son's memory is more important than my kid's existence? That's a heavy, heavy question. And yet I'm asking it. And I am probably the first. I get used to that. Why is that your son's memory is more important than my child's existence? And we can say this not just about my children. You can say this about every kid in America. Because none of these kids are safe while your husband has access to the button. While your husband can make deals that enslave and destroy. Your husband talks to dead people. Your husband cannot complete a sentence. Your husband does not know where he is. So, how come that's okay and my kids should grow up in that fear factory? But we can't notice if your husband forgot when his own son died? I didn't say he forgot his son. I didn't say he doesn't love his son or miss his son. I believe all these things to be true. He loves and misses his son. But he forgot. It's not scoring political points. It's a recognition of why Robert Hur did not put Joe Biden on the stand. Which, by the way, he willfully took classified documents, and that alone is impeachable. No? It's kind of it is of course obscene, but it's kind of odd to see people screaming about this thing and then not recognizing that Joe Biden has no privilege. Dr. Joe Biden, maybe she's got a little bit of privilege, but not in this. Not in this. Other people's children should be in danger, but somehow your child can't be discussed in terms of your husband's memory. That's, methink thou doth protest too much. Which brings us to Hillary Clinton, who has decided that Joe Biden's age is indeed an issue that should be discussed.
Okay, people, move along. There's nothing to see here.
Well, that's something. Does Hillary Clinton actually think she can get the nomination? Hillary Clinton is not so crazy as to think the Democratic Party is coming back her way. I mean, I just can't. There's no way she thinks this. That the Democratic Party is going to be so desperate, they're going to go back to her. There's nobody else? I'd be inclined to think that the Democratic Party would rather have Kamala Harris than Hillary Clinton. But, you know, what are the odds of that? I rest my case. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. So I was trying to think of, take a look at all the video I didn't get to today. There's a bunch of things I did not get to today, including, did I play this from Mayorkas about not taking responsibility?
It certainly is a crisis, and well, we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system. But fundamentally, Congress is the only one who can fix it.
He doesn't take responsibility for what's happening at the border, and then no regrets ending Remain in Mexico?
A few things about Remain in Mexico. First of all, it depends upon Mexico's agreement. And Mexico has articulated publicly that it will not allow the re-implementation of Remain in Mexico, number one. Number two, it's been challenged in the courts. And number three, remember something, that Remain in Mexico was implemented in January of 2019. In 2019, there was almost a 100% increase in the number of encounters at our southwest border over 2018.
That has nothing to do with whether or not Remain in Mexico worked. And what does it matter whether Mexico likes it? Mexico's in charge of our policies? Very, very weird. But this is, I mean, they should have impeached him the first time. But they are going to bring that back. But Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, who voted not to impeach, he has decided not to run for re-election. There are a lot of people not happy about this, right? This is a whole populism conversation, and I'll get to it. It's the theory being is that he was a very conservative vote, a more conservative vote according to some scorecards than Elise Stefanik. So why would you want him gone? He just made a mistake on the impeachment thing. That much is for sure. I'm going to get to the Joel Osteen thing. This is big. Listen up. So there was a shooting that took place. The shooting took place at Joel Osteen's church in Texas. Now, my expertise regarding Joel Osteen is zero. Just I think he's an odd dude, but hey, you might like him. Who am I to say that? I've never met him. Tony Katz today. What's going on, everybody? The story is, and here's how CNN reported it. A woman who walked into a popular Texas megachurch Sunday afternoon with a long gun and young child opened fire before she was killed by law enforcement officers on the scene. Left the child in critical condition and another man injured. This was Lakewood Church, 6 miles from downtown Houston. That's how the story gets reported. Why did she have the gun? Why was she going in? Whose baby? All these things. And then you hear that it is not as it seems, that the shooter, as described now, was a migrant from El Salvador, a criminal history dating back to 2005, and a woman who thought they were a man. The shooter being transgender, this according to the Libs of TikTok account. And also, I believe Fox News has the story. Previously went by the name of Jeffrey. So the question is, how quickly does this story disappear? It is also being reported, and of course, this reporting can change, that this person was a supporter of Bernie Sanders and had on her gun, because it was actually a woman, claimed to be a man, a sticker that read, "Free Palestine." Now, I am willing to state that all of this could change, and all of this could be real. When reports like this come out, I sometimes I don't even mention them. I wait to get the data. Sometimes I say, guys, especially, for example, when there's some horrible shooting, numbers change, they fluctuate, they go up, they go down, they get revised all the time. And so sometimes what gets said at the first does not necessarily refer to or mean that that's going to be the way it is. You know who never revises their numbers? Hamas. Hamas has got a perfect count of all the women and children Israel's killed. Like you trust a terrorist organization. But never once do they revise their numbers down. Oh, we miscalculated here. They're always perfect. No running water, but they always have perfect numbers. We're going to keep up with this. And now we're going to ask ourselves the question. If this is all the case, as we're now getting the news stories, Fox News has and others, how quickly will this story disappear? How quickly will the news not talk about somebody who has a mental disorder engaged in a shooting? We're going to find out soon enough. This is Tony Katz Today. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. And with that, guys, another one in the books, another show in the books. Don't forget to head on over. Well, you can email me, Tony@TonyKatz.com. Head on over to TonyKatz.com and become a supporter over there. I'd greatly appreciate it. And subscribe on Rumble and on YouTube. Do both of those things. I'd appreciate that as well. And I will catch you tomorrow, everyone. Take care.